This particular video is a little different because I cried quite a bit inside my heart and soul about 20 minutes or so ago. Um, and was crying in my heart before I decided to do this particular video. Okay. Because naturally, this is going to go all the way back to childhood. So I know that I have an enormous amount. I could cry forever as a result of what they did here. Frankenstein experiments, erasing memory so you don't remember what they did to you. The scale of what these beings do to others is on a scale that I knew already as a child. I wouldn't be able to function. I would have not been able to do the job that I needed to do. Why I'm here and why I'm here now communicating with all of you. Because I'm aware of all of it. Okay? That's the truth of it. That's why I spent 4 days crying in a hotel room continuously when I asked Mama Earth, let me experience all of it so I can heal you. Okay? So when I see pictures, for example, like the one that Longhouse Milo Stewart put up, and I see nurses holding up signs, people that work in the healthcare profession, people that work in police, law enforcement, people that are in the military, people go to work every day. You have no idea how much I cry for all of them. Because when you're the one and you're giving love to all creation, it means you love everybody. Every last one. Right down to every living cellular organism or the center of that cell that is alive and living with a soul that is experiencing a spirit that is leading them in their mirror to experience what love is. You realize you are experiencing the most intense fire of that vibration that goes on forever loving you. And that's what unconditional love is, because that's what I am. Which means I will never stop giving everything that is alive and living in a living universe what is that I am, which is what love is. Or then I will begin to lose what it is that I am aware of, which is what I am, which is what love is. So you know, as I've known since I was 4 years old, that love goes on forever, giving you love. So I've always known, even when I was on the phone one time with Patty Broussard, and I remember she was relaying to me about going back in time before things were created, that we thus experience in future, the crimes that they do as a result of them having been created. She mentioned one time about it was under investigation. And then I had to come to grips with, why would you investigate something that we can go back in time and remove because of all the Frankenstein experiments that come as a result of what they do by being able to erase memories? Why would the Andromeda Council ever give consent to something that would be allowed to happen that represents what I just described, that is against the law of one? Right? Because that's not what love is. Love would never give consent to children being experimented on, then erasing their memories and doing what I became aware of, which is against the law of one that began the war in heaven. Okay? So you know that the one is always going to have the last say, because that's what love is. Love is the law. So it's easy to be able to translate this in the way that energy, which is consciousness, works to maintain its balance. which is the balance in the water worlds. Because the more that we keep losing what we're aware of, which is what love is, it goes on forever, gifting love, then I'm losing more what I am aware of, which is what love is. So love is always going to maintain the law, which is what love is. It goes on forever because that's the energy that we use to create our worlds with. That's Adam and Eve. Okay? So you got to know, because I've always known this when I lit myself on fire. Okay? And that's why there's probably a lot of things that I know that I experienced, even though I'm uncensored, okay, that I've experienced because I went down a lot of rabbit holes, a lot of dark tunnels, and experienced a lot of things. It's just like, this is where I draw the line in the sand, baby. I can be aware of something without wanting to experience it directly because you realize that once you experience what that is, you cross the line. That's the underworld stuff, and I'm not what that is. So you got to know the gate that you belong to. Even though you're the one, which is what love is, it goes on forever because you're androgynous as a polarity integrator. And so you can understand why when you're running a mated chip, why you're here. And the importance of experiencing what others were experiencing as a result of what they do and what they did. And why we're putting an end to that. And why? Because love is a law. Right? So what happens is when I go back to the beginning of this particular video, and I begin to cry tears, I realized that there are so many people that I grew up with throughout my life in the suburbs of America, people, because I did have the great blessing and the time and the experience to do it, of having traveled back and forth across the United States, because I wanted to see how everybody in America was living their lives. So I basically avoided most of the cities, although I went through a lot of cities, but I wanted to see how people live out of the way, out of the, if you will, not really off grid, but I think of this the way an Indian scout would, who's barefoot, who say lived in nature back in the days. I'll just give you an example. Places that I love that I visited, like the Bridger Teton Wilderness below Jackson Hole, Wyoming, where the Grand Teton Mountains are, because I spent a lot of time in Yellowstone, because wherever there's volcanoes, there's a lot of powerful energy, right? That's one of the reasons I love this rock where I'm at, where Mauna Loa is erupting. Yeah. And if you ever get the opportunity to be around living magma, lava flows, man, is that powerful energy. Yeah. And you feel all that goddess energy. Yeah. Right? Powerful voltage, baby. Yeah. And you begin to realize all of a sudden, if you've had injuries, they're removed out of memory. Right? Clear all your circuits. Now you're running a powerful radio antenna. Right? So when I think of all the people that are experiencing who they are across the planet, particularly in America, because that's where I grew up, you can realize how painful it is when I realize that I'm an uncensored being. I'm not afraid to tell the truth, because love is the absence of fear. Because I knew as a child I was fearless, which means I'm not going to allow you to control what it is I experience, because love is a free spirit. So that means I was aware of a lot of things that were going on, and I kept my mouth shut. Because there's one thing I remember when I was in Alcoholics Anonymous, and that is that you want to live in the truth, which is what love is, but to communicate something to somebody that does them harm. So now you have to sort using the art of communication, which is a mother and a father's love, of what you're going to communicate to your children and decide whether or not that would harm them or not, even though you know that what the truth is. So this is the other side of memory wipes, which is known as the side of healing, which is to experience the law again, which is what love is, which means fathers and mothers that love you. Because that's what I am. And that's the beauty and the eternal gift of being androgynous or a mated chip, is it means that both the father and the mother, because I look like a father, loves you the same way that a mother does. Okay? Which is called equality, which means both the father and the mother are mated as one, which is the one vibration. Right? The center point of a living cell, which is the center point of a living star, which is a real star. Right? So I thought that was important because there are so many, you care for everything. You have empathy. It's just like when I was a child, when I was experiencing that individual that was on a gurney one night when I was about 8 years old, driving down the street in Oakland one night, and I could experience the pain and the suffering, or if you will, the loss of voltage in him, that I was experiencing in me. And it causes an enormous amount of what we call a negative reaction state or stress in your central nervous system. And I realized I'm not supposed to experience that because it shook me up. It was a shock. Shocking me. That being was shocked as a result of what? Hematologic shock, a loss of bile plasma. That being was losing an enormous amount of voltage. I was experiencing that in me. So when you measure that up on a planetary scale, as a polarity integrator, I'd have been taken out a long time ago. Because I realized when I went into the field of firefighting and rescue and all the rest of it, not the least of which everything that you know that you're connected to in living cellular organisms, of what you're giving love to, the resistance that you're experiencing and you're measuring on a planetary consciousness field, of how much resistance there is to experience more light, which is to experience more love, which is to experience more voltage. Clear the resistance, clear the circuits, so you're running a clear channel on a powerful radio antenna with your DNA, right? So anyway, I love you all. And where this becomes sort of difficult is because of people that are working jobs, trying to feed their children, trying to get along, trying to live in a state of peace, okay? And I realized that as a child. Most people want to be left alone to be able to live their lives with their energy, and their lives are not being molested, particularly their children. And in order to do that, that means that molesters have to be removed so people can live in a state of peace and carry about their lives so their community can thrive, so their planet can thrive, so their star system can thrive, so their galaxy can thrive, so their universe can thrive. Because that's what love does. Love is what love does as energy, which is your consciousness, which is your soul, which is your spirit, or whatever you are. We can measure you in energy. What are you doing with the use of your energy? We can measure that. Right? So when you are what love is, you're the law. That's the law of one. Have a great day. I love you all. Be good to yourselves.